Hey everyone, welcome to episode 13 of Heroic Nonsense. Apologies for the delay in getting this one out, but I was a bit under the weather and also had some computer problems, the perfect storm. Well, we're back, and as I hinted in my short, it's with a vengeance, or more appropriately, a nemesis. That's right, we're taking a look at this huge bot, Nemesis, from the Legacy line. As we jump into it, let's take a few moments to see if you guys can guess what these few images are or where they're from. Last one is a tough one, but hints in this video. I thought we'd start with the ship rather than the robot mode this time, since I would say the ship is definitely the more iconic one of the two, as originally seen in the very first G1 Transformers cartoon in '84. First impression, it's very accurate to that original cartoon design and has that striking purple color. It's also very well put together, a sleek looking ship that fits smoothly at the various seams. You can see some of those nice straight line accents that break up the ship to give it some character. We'll see this in a bit, but the lower back fin of the ship splits open so you can lay the ship down and display it in that position. As for display ideas, make sure you stick around until the end or skip at the timestamp so you can see some more cool ideas for your displays right after the transformation video. I think one of my favorite parts of the ship is the bridge section that has a lot of nice design elements, starting from the base and moving up through the bay windows with that cool futuristic design all the way up to what is likely the command center at the top. You also have these triple cannons interspersed throughout the ship, with one right here at the top of the bridge in a nice gunmetal type gray. From this angle, you can see the front of the bridge section and those windows at the bay area. Overall, this whole section is really well done between the different colored accents, the engraved lines, and the additional elements like the windows and cannon. The bow of the ship has even more details and is really where all the action is. You have three double-barreled cannons and two three-barreled cannons in addition to the bridge one, which give this ship a ton of firepower. I love the accents here as well, specifically that interesting design underneath the double cannons and the splashes of red color. You also have some extra details like vents and raised sections to give this section a very dynamic feel. On each side, you have these bays that can open and reveal some tiny Decepticon seekers, which I'll go into a bit more detail shortly. I would have liked for them to have colored these in, but I recognize that would be extra work and cost for such a small addition to the toy. No reason why you can't paint them yourselves though. Moving towards the back, there are again some nice details, especially on the wing sections, which have these upper and lower fins that just add that bit of extra detail to make this part look so nice. You can also see some nice detail at the exhaust section in gunmetal gray and silver with a touch of yellow. One of my other favorite parts here is this beautiful engraved Decepticon symbol on the upper large fin. I like that they actually had it engraved and didn't simply put a sticker. For a toy this big and iconic, I'd say that that type of detail is mandatory, so it's great that they did this on both sides. I didn't notice this so much in the cartoon, but looking at the Nemesis from the front gives it this very shark looking feel, especially with that smooth nose that comes together at a point and the fins spread out on all sides. Again, best word to describe this ship is sleek. For my third favorite part of the ship, I'd have to say it is these huge boosters in the back. I love the coloring and how big they made these. When you think of the size of the seekers that came with this, you can envision how big these thrusters would have to be. Another nice bit of detail is this back bay with ramp that opens for the Decepticons to board the Nemesis. I've placed here the mini Seekers that come with the Nemesis with their corresponding larger toys. Based off of the box art, which we'll look at later, I was able to reproduce most of the characters I believe they intended to use. First off, we have Ramjet. I actually still don't have the updated G1 version since I missed the original 2-pack with Dirge, which I now have as the re-release. So I'm using G2 Ramjet here. For a bonus, I'm showing my original G1 versions of these guys as well. Next is Thundercracker, which you can easily see on the box art, and my original here in the corner. Followed by Thrust. I'm really happy they used Thrust because I love that Seeker. I have the original and Masterpiece and always loved this design, so it's nice to have a mini version. Finally, we round it out with a generic Cybertronian Seeker. I can't tell which character they're using on the box art, so I took the first transform one I had from my shelf, in this case Ion Storm. Now let's take a look at Nemesis in bot mode. Definitely a big robot that lines up well with all the other Titan class bots, with nice detailing throughout the figure, some cool posable clawed hands, and a very strong frame, even with the thinner mid area of the figure. Like the ship mode, I have a few favorite parts here, those being the sleek legs and wings on the back. I also think the pointed shoulders add to the aggressive look of the figure. So here's a back view which is very monotone, with a lot of the parts being formed by the wings and fins, which get folded open, but the frame still gives it some nice industrial elements and there aren't any gaps. I'll note here that those flaps on the arms that hang off the side are extremely frustrating and fall off all the time during transformation, so be prepared for them to drop each time you try to transform Nemesis. A lot of the colors and details are at the top part of the bot, which you can see here. Again, a nice engraved Decepticon symbol at the chest area, and I really like the red highlights throughout the bot form. I mostly like the features of the face, especially the way it replicates the Decepticon symbol, but feel the Tarn Decepticon mask does it much better. I think if they got rid of the side guards to the face, I'd like it even more. Here you can see the legs and feet. Like I said earlier, I do like the way the wings fold back over the legs, and you have some more wings protruding from the back. The feet also look great, not chunky, but still able to hold up the robot mode well. Another look at all the details and colors used in bot mode as compared to the ship mode, which makes complete sense since the ship was basically all purple in the cartoon. The small front fins from the ship can be removed and form these small flag slash axe type accessories, though we tend not to display them this way. As with all our other big Titan class Transformers, it's always fun to display them with the core class toys, especially when you can place them in the hands like I've done here for Ironhide. Nemesis can hold these smaller core class bots fairly well, and I'll show you some more fun display ideas later on. This part was actually fun to do for me as there are a ton of ways to use Nemesis with your other classes of Transformers figures from microbots to regular size. I've taken the liberty to give you a taste of all these different size comparisons here and later at the display section of the episode. Obviously, the most relevant comparison would be up against the Kingdom Titan class Arc. As you guys can see, they look great together and visually complement each other nicely with the color scheme and shapes. I'd say they generally match up well in scale and size, though the Arc has a bit more room for placing figures inside of it, whether at the bridge or the back bay area. Placing them in launch mode is probably my favorite as you can recreate the famous scene from the cartoon and the scale looks perfect. Since Nemesis comes with those small seekers, I wanted to show you what this would look like with some Decepticons transformed into their robot form at generally the same scale. So I grabbed a few of these figures from the Transformers Monopoly game and placed them heading into the Bay Area. This scale probably makes the most sense for display purposes, at least in ship mode. You can also see how the back bay door opens, though there isn't much space inside to do much. You can do the same type of display with the Autobot Monopoly figures and the Arc. The bots the game comes with are Megatron, Optimus, Jazz, Starscream, Bumblebee, and Soundwave. Add in the four Seekers that come with Nemesis, and you have a nice little group to display these with. Moving up a scale, another pretty good line to display these with are the Earthrise Micromasters. They work a bit better with the Arc since you can actually place a few of them in the bay entrance as well as the bridge. With Nemesis, you can only really have them look like they're able to enter the ship mode. Here we have the core class scale. Obviously at this size you lose any type of scaling with the ship mode, but they're still small enough to look okay. I'll show you very soon how this core class looks when compared to the bot mode. I don't bother to show here the regular size Transformers since in ship form they are completely out of scale. This here has to be my favorite display. Having Titan class Scorponok in his base form with the Nemesis ship right behind it in the background with some of those Monopoly figures looks so great. If you have any of the Titan class city bots and have the room to display it this way, this is my reco. Moving on to the bot mode comparisons, I again wanted to start with the Arc. These two perfectly match up in height and style, so if you're so inclined, displaying them next to each other in this mode looks really good. Again, I think I prefer them next to each other in ship mode, but we may switch between the two for displays. Funny enough, the side view makes Nemesis look much bulkier than the Arc, but I think this is most likely due to the hunched position you can place Nemesis in and the pointy shoulders. This is more of a cool picture to show you guys. From the right angle, these guys look like behemoths, and you can get the feeling that they tower over the battlefield while the tiny Autobots and Decepticons duke it out below. So this time I'm starting with the largest scale to compare Nemesis with, using the Netflix spoiler pack Megatron. In bot modes, they do actually look pretty nice together in this scale. The bot mode is where you can play around most with the different scales as they can all match up nicely. I've placed all four scales here so you can see how they match up to each other and Nemesis, from Voyager class to Core to Micromaster to the Monopoly Transformers pieces. Finally, simply showing how you can make a fun display with the smallest scale I have from the Monopoly game. See if you can spot the figure and character. Let's wrap up this part with a quick look at the box art. Since this is a Titan class, like all the other ones before, there's lots of room to make a really nice painting of the toy. I'd have to say this is one of my favorite of all my Titan class boxes. One, because I love the G1 Decepticon ship design, so I'm happy they went the nostalgic and iconic route of showing the ship. And two, there's a lot of fun details from planets to the Ark and all four images of the Seekers. This is a really nice close-up of Thrust and Thundercracker, and for such a small part of the art, it's nice to see all the detail they included, even up to including the Decepticon symbols on Thrust's wings. You don't get to see much of Ramjet, but you can tell it's him by his color scheme and shape. On the exact opposite side of the other three Seekers, in the lower right corner, you have the last of the four Seekers, which is one of the Cybertronian modes. I'm actually not sure who this is supposed to be. I suspect a generic Seeker, but it could pass off as Acid Storm perhaps. If anyone knows, leave a comment in the section below. Nice color scheme though, so maybe they'll make it if they haven't already. Side art is similar to the other Legacy Evolution boxes, just bigger so you can get a better look at some of the details. The back has all the images you'd come to expect. You can see here that the bigger fins can also become weapons, though I didn't show that in this review. I like the way they show the different features in those computer looking frames. As for the other side, you get a really nice picture of Nemesis in bot mode, which you don't get elsewhere. I actually really dig this pose they put Nemesis in, with those claws reaching out in the dead of space. Makes the figure look very dynamic. Alright, so time for the transformation. First, we're going to start with the fins slash wings here that wrap around the lower legs by untabbing them from the legs, opening them up, and clicking each side into each other. Followed by turning them around 180 degrees until they click into place. This takes a bit of elbow grease. Next, we're going to unfold this little side portion from the back of the leg on each side. And then unfold this top wing of the ship like so for each leg. These will eventually tab in together. We'll jump to the chest portion and close it by sliding them into each other, and do the same for the head by lowering the visor and pushing in the side guards. You can then lift up the head to prepare it for later. Taking a side view, you'll want to untab the lower wing portion and then turn it 180 degrees on the hinge so it's facing downwards, which you can let hang there for now. You can also open up the bridge portion like this, which was tucked away in the back of Nemesis. On the lower arms, open up the inner panel to reveal a space where the fist will go after you have folded up the fingers and rotated it 180 degrees. Simply rotate it back into the space and close the panel back up. By the way, check the link here for the shorts on how to transform Nemesis from ship back to bot. Let's do the same thing on the other side like so. And then let's close up the lower arms, which will tab into the upper arm. On this arm, you can see the tab a bit better. You can lower these side flaps in now. These are the ones, by the way, that always fall off. So this next part is the trickiest part for me because it requires you to rotate the body 180 degrees twice at two different points. So you'll want to start with turning the whole waist on this ratchet. You can see here that the lower wing came off, not a big deal. It slides back on. It comes packed in the box separate like this anyways. Now we'll want to rotate the upper portion back, leaving the hanging wing where it is. Just make sure to line up everything at this point. Back to the top, you can lower the head into the space where the bridge was hiding in bot mode and that we opened up earlier, and close the bridge back up over the head. Flip up this cannon bay to form part of the front of the ship. I recommend spreading the legs out at 45 degrees here. Start by turning the feet in 180 degrees so they're prepared to be folded in later. Rotate the leg next at this joint 90 degrees so the smooth parts of the wings are facing outwards. Now unhinge the upper leg like so and fold the leg up. Do this for each leg now and click them into place. You can now turn the feet up into the leg portion and bring the legs next to each other. Once they are lined up, just click them together. Now you can take this lower wing that was hanging from before and tab it here into the main body of the ship. Finally, close up each side of the wings and snap them into place like we did earlier for the smaller fins on the legs. This part can be a bit tricky as well, but the idea is to push these shoulder portions up into place until they meet at the top. This cannon bay section needs to be moved a bit so that it all clicks together smoothly. The corners of this flat cannon section often impede the two shoulder sections from snapping into each other, so you can see here how I need to push it up a bit. Now simply click in all the panels that are sticking out a bit until everything is smooth. Open up these mini fins for each wing. And there you have it, Nemesis transformed in all its glory. By now, I think you can tell what my favorite display idea is. I just think these two Titan class bots look amazing together in this form. And you can even add in Earthrise Astrotrain to the mix, which also lines up scale-wise quite nicely. As promised earlier, I've made a display with some of the microbots, which as my smallest transforming scale fit perfectly in this display and can be a lot of fun to play with as well. Moving up to core class, you can most definitely have some fun with this type of setup as well. I'm cheating a bit here since I'm using a Combiner Wars Shockwave because he is my favorite version to date in this scale, and I'll show you why in a minute. Having Nemesis transformed with core class bots fighting each other works perfectly for this type of display, and because of their size, they don't take up any room at all and can fit easily around Nemesis. Here's another view looking up at Nemesis from the point of view of the battle. Looks really great at this angle and very imposing. And this is the reason I love this Shockwave figure. It transformed into his G1 laser form and can fit into the Titan class hands, so you can actually use him as a laser for these Titans. You can get a really nice pose this way. I may actually keep Shockwave this way if we end up displaying Nemesis in bot mode rather than crushing an Autobot in its fists. I know some people like displaying Nemesis as hunched over, somewhat zombie-like, so I've used that idea here as Nemesis is dragging main frame that came with the Titan class arc along the ground. Obviously, you can use any figure of the scale, but it's all the more poignant to use the bot that comes with the arc. A couple more core class to show, this time with the arc nearby. If you have the room for a double display like this is the way to go. You can create a very cool dynamic display this way. And to end this episode off, the two ships battling each other over the horizon. Unfortunately for the Ark in this case, Nemesis got the better of him and makes him beg while holding his head in the grasp of Nemesis's claws. So that's it for this week. Thanks again, everyone, for being so patient in between episodes. I'm back on track now, and we'll have a new episode for you guys next week. Until then, thanks for joining this community, and be sure to check out the new channel song I will be releasing this coming week called Scream at the Stars. And remember, it's all such heroic nonsense in the end.
Bravo!